All right, welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Steve Pintato, and with me, as always, is my main manager, Brown Curtis. What's going on today, Jibs?
It's going good. Yeah, the week's almost over. I got a Friday looking forward to. Trying to get into this redraft season kind of feel again. But other than that, like it's another week, and I can't wait till next week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's fun doing two podcasts a week. We don't usually do that during the off season, but NFL draft had to squeeze in an extra pod this week. So we're here talking today some wide receivers and tight ends from the NFL draft, and we got another great guest on today, Steve Tironi from the Hot Take Podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, appreciate it. It's rookie draft season. It's best ball season. Like I'm excited. I'm getting drafts in all week with best ball, and then I got a couple rookie drafts this weekend. So yeah, I'm excited to talk rookies today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me and Jibs, at least especially me, I just did like at least 9 rookie drafts in the last 3 days.
That is a lot, my friend.
It would have been all at the same time if certain commissioner didn't want to push them all up to start.
Yeah. I have commissioned a lot of them because I like the commissioning duties, and I was like, oh, we'll space them out during the week, and then I was like Monday morning or Sunday night, I was like, all today, guys, no timer, just go. And well, here we go. But yeah, we're talking some rookies today, guys, wide receivers and tight ends here. So we're going to get right into it because there's a lot to cover. There really not too much in news. So any news we missed this week, we'll try to recover it next week. So we're going to start right at the top here. And unfortunately, it's not a wide receiver that went off the board first. It was Kyle Pitts, the tight end, the once-in-a-generational type of player here. Goes off to Atlanta at number 4 here. And Steve, I'll let you go first on this one. How do you like Kyle Pitts with his Falcons core of passes already?
Yeah, at first when I was hearing the Falcons, I was like, okay, yeah, and then it really grew on me. I mean, for them to draft a tight end at the 4th pick, I said this on another pod. I mean, like just that alone, like it does give me more confidence because we've been burned before. Don't forget, I mean, David Njoku, Evan Ingram recently, the jury's still out for OJ Howard and guys like this that we really touted coming into the league. But like I said, a top 5 pick is just unprecedented. And then what's even more unprecedented is the man himself. I mean, just watch the tape, look at the, player profiler and just see his measurements, his athletic profile is off the charts. Again, we've been burned before by these athletic tight ends, but I think it's different this time. The thing is with Kyle Pitts, it's like he's so controversial that if he has a bad first few weeks, I mean, it's going to be flamethrowers all over Twitter. Like, it's not going to be good. People are going to really freak out. But let's remember that he's a rookie and that he's going to maybe take some time. Maybe it'll take a few weeks, but I do believe that he will be fantasy relevant this season.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping that he tanks and then people are freaking out and they're like, yeah, send him my way. You know what? I'll take a shot. And then he comes, obviously he's really good because he is a generational talent here. But on the flip side, Jibs, how confident are you going into Kyle Pitts as possibly a tight end 1 going into the season now with this Atlanta Falcons team?
For what purposes?
Just as a normal, redraft kind of situation.
All right, yeah.
Even Dynasty is your tight end 1,
like the legit number 1 tight end.
No. As a top, let's say a top 8 tight end. Are you comfortable all season with a guy like that? Could he be that top 8 guy for you all season?
I don't think so.
No.
To be honest, I think he'll finish within that top 12 range as the season progresses. But you also got to think that they still have Julio Jones on that team. They still have Calvin Ridley. Rookie tight ends usually don't get off to the best footing as a result. You could probably reflect maybe Vernon Davis. I think that was probably the best rookie tight end year, and you don't really see that many stuff like that. So I could project he'll get 700, 800 yards, but I don't know when that point's gonna come in the season when they're hey, we gotta get this guy on the field and let him rip. But he possesses all the talent. Don't get me wrong. Dynasty, yes, I'll have him as a top 8, but redraft, no.
Yeah, and actually, I listened to the CBS Sports podcast. Actually, I think it was today. Actually, and they said in the last 16 seasons, Evan Ingram's rookie season was the best of the last 16 years.
He's a bum.
And I think he had like 60 receptions, 700 yards, and like 5 or 6 touchdowns. Like that's what is Kyle Pitts better than that in his first year? Probably similar. Probably with all the other weapons there, I'm going to say he's about that at best. I think people are going to overdraft him and let them kind of deal with the situation and don't reach for a guy like Kyle Pitts, even though he's a generational type of talent. In Dynasty, if you want to reach for him, I get it. I mean, if I knew this was going to be the next Travis Kelce, I would do it. And you know kind of off the bat that with his talent that he's going to be a great player in this league here. So in Dynasty, yeah, but in redraft, don't reach for a guy like this early on. I'm sure we'll talk about Kyle Pitts as we get closer to redraft season. But in Dynasty, yeah, you could consider him the top 2 player in a non-superflex league very easily if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to make a decision. I'm at the 105 in a draft this weekend, and I know he's going to be there, or I think he's going to be there. I mean, it's a super flex league. I mean, I figure 3 quarterbacks are going to go. Najee's going to go, and then I'm going to be sitting there with the decision to make. Is it JaMar? Is who we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about a couple of these guys, but Kyle Pitts is going to be there. And what can I get for Kyle Pitts? That's what I'm thinking, because it's like his value is so high right now. So what if I draft Kyle Pitts and then just dangle him out there? Like, what can you get for him? Because for this specific team, and it's always team specific, guys. Like, I mean, you can rank your players, and that always rank your players. Always do tier based rankings. It's going to make you such a better drafter. But once you do that, it's team dependent. And then, like, I have Mark Andrews, I have Robert Tonyan and Logan Thomas on this team. If I draft Kyle Pitts, I'm going to look to try to move him right away, and obviously get back what I think is substantial value. Could he be the next Travis Kelce? Yes, very easily. If that were to happen and you trade a player like that, you have to just eat that and figure out what is the best compensation for that. What do you want? Draft picks? Do you want talent? But it might take a couple years for him to be that number 1 target. Like we're talking about, Calvin Ridley is there, but what I think they're trying to set up with Matt Ryan and to finish out his contract is a Kansas City-esque type offense where maybe Julio isn't in the equation next year or in 2 years. And then it's just Ridley as a Tyreek and Kyle Pitts there. And then you have 2 main targets in this offense with no running back in sight. Like, who's their running back, in 2 years? Is it Mike Davis?
Maybe it's me. I don't know. Kyle Pitts. And see, that's a great point that, I mean, you have to look past just this season, especially in Dynasty when it comes to Kyle Pitts. Like, you may have to take him early and expect him not to have a great rookie season to know that he's going to have a long career, hopefully, in this league as a top-tier tight end. That's very hard to find right now, as we all know, and playing any kind of fantasy football league. So Kyle Pitts, guys, he's a generational guy, and that's why he went 4th overall. So, and now we head over to our next guy, JaMar Chase, to many people, the wide receiver 1 in this draft class, goes to Cincinnati, as some people kind of question that, but he has a connection with Joe Burrow. Steve, how do you feel about them taking JaMar Chase here, and does he fit right for fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, you got over 100 targets available in this offense. You can always tell when a franchise wants like that redemption. John Ross, RIP for the Cincinnati Bengals, and it just makes a lot of sense. It's like the same thing that the Jaguars did by drafting Travis Etienne. Make your quarterback comfortable, give him his receiver, give him your new wide receiver 1. And, that's what this offense was looking to be last year when Joe Burrow was healthy. You have 3 or 4 options in the passing game and Joe Mixon in the backfield. Now you have a legit wide receiver 1. I think he's the most complete receiver in this class. He's actually my wide receiver 2 when it comes to fantasy football for Dynasty right now. But as far as most complete wide receiver, it's JaMar Chase.
I think I know who it is, but I can't wait to get to it. Jibs, on your side here, JaMar Chase is going obviously to Cincinnati. He's going to be with Joe Burrow. That connection we saw in the national championship game was unreal. But they already have T. Higgins. They have Tyler Boyd. They have Joe Mixon coming out of the backfield here. Does that scare you a little bit on how that committee is going to go? Is he going to be a guy who actually can see 100 targets, or is he going to be not that kind of guy?
No, I believe he could be that type of guy. Like all three of those receivers had over 100 targets, and Joe Burrow didn't play the whole season. I know certain backup quarterbacks favored certain receivers, but just given that kind of situation from 2020, like I believe it's still possible with Joe Burrow. It wasn't like Joe Burrow was throwing like 30 pass attempts a game. Like he had high passing volume, and just that consideration, like I still don't think the Bengals are going to be great, so they're going to have to be playing catch up in games. So there goes your garbage time and all that good stuff. But I would say, given like the hot name in the market is JaMar Chase, like for redraft purposes, you kind of figured that'll kind of drop T Higgins' value, that'll drop Boyd's value. You could get them at round differences. So for a guy like me, like if JaMar Chase is going in round 6 or round 7 and Tyler Boyd's going 8 and 9, I'm taking the Boyd. Gonna get me like another more quality player for a different position and to capitalize on the same kind of team volume with Boyd,
Yeah,
especially in PPR leagues.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic take there, and you have to think about it in this term as well. That it's going to be a pass first team for the next couple seasons until they can really build that defense up. So they're going to be throwing the ball a ton in this league here. JaMar Chase, he might get off to a slow start. It's possible. A lot of rookie wide receivers do tend to kind of get off to a slow start the first month or so, and then kind of just explode once they get down the footing in the league here. And you got to think it's not going to just be the three of them consistently through his entire career. Tyler Boyd's already going to be 27 heading into this season. I think next year there's an opt out of his contract if they choose to, and then you're looking at JaMar Chase and T Higgins going the next 7+ years possibly, or less next 5 years, and that's a great tandem to think of a. They talked about back in the day, think of like Anquan Boldin and Larry Fitzgerald kind of combo there.
Ugh, dirty.
Having those two on the field at the same time, they both produce big, high fantasy numbers. JaMar Chase and maybe even T. Higgins can do that, especially JaMar Chase. You saw that connection with a guy like Joe Burrow here, and you should not be scared to take a guy like this in the top 3 of your rookie drafts because look at the running backs. We talked about it on Monday. Like, there's just not a lot of great situations here for them. You got to go and get your wide receiver, a guy who can probably play at least 12 seasons, not 12 seasons, but at least 10 seasons in this league here and be really good with a quarterback who a lot of people seem to like in Joe Burrow. So it's a match made in heaven, even though we don't like it. Obviously, we would rather have them take a lineman. But in terms of fantasy, it's going to produce. It might not produce off this bat, but it's going to produce long-term for you, like we talked about with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, and they did end up getting a lineman in the second round. So they didn't get the guy that everybody wanted them to get. I mean, look, they wanted Joe Burrow to pass the ball 600 times last year. Obviously, an unfortunate injury. I don't know. I don't have the pass attempts in front of me for the Cincinnati Bengals. I would guess it was over 600 last year. And if Burrow's back there healthy, he's going to pass the ball a lot. So you got to love that from a fantasy football perspective. And JaMar Chase is going to have a big portion of that pie. I would be very surprised if he gets under 100 targets this year. I mean, it could be in that 120 range for sure. Yeah,
no, definitely. It's looking good for JaMar Chase right now. But heading over to the next guy on the list, the next pick right after this is just skill. Jaylen Waddle went to my Miami Dolphins, as you guys can see in my background. I pointed the wrong way. But Jaylen Waddle, I mean, what can you say about him? Explosion type of player here. And Steve, how does Jaylen Waddle, can he really explode with the Miami Dolphins in fantasy for us this year, or just in general sense?
Yeah, it's tough to say. It really is tough to say with Tua. I think this is an offense that you need to be mindful of going into draft season. There's value all over the place. All of these guys are going to go at value, and they're great players. Talking about Will Fuller, DeVonta Parker, and now Jaylen Waddle, you're going to get a discount because of the offense. And even Myles Gaskin, really. So the whole offense, just discount city, and a lot of value. But Jaylen Waddle, to me, when I was watching tape, gearing up for all of these prospects, I mean, he was just my favorite by far. His highlights are unreal. The wiggle, the burst, the breakaway speed. When the ball's in his hands, he's very, very dangerous. And that works for Tua. Because he doesn't want to throw it deep all the time. He's not a deep ball guy at this stage in his career. He wants, somebody underneath that can get the ball and work, like a Curtis Samuel or something like that. I'm not saying that's what Jaylen Waddle is. I think that he can be a great receiver in this league. I think he's going to have a great career. For this year, look, if you want to take him with your last pick in a redraft league, go ahead. Best ball, he's a great pick. Dynasty, yeah, look, he's a first-round pick. No questions about it. I think this does a lot for Tua and the Dolphins more than just like Waddle's individual fantasy for 2021.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting pick there because of the way people feel about Tua, and can he really handle this offense to make it more high power that a lot of other teams seem to have, and like obviously the Chiefs and great Packers and whatnot. But Jibs, do you believe Waddle can do that even with possibly maybe consider mediocre Tua?
I think he can. Like, I don't think it's going to be an exceptional play this year, but I think he could. He's not going to be a starter on your dynasty team, and like I know you'll have the urge to kind of want to bring him off your taxi and whatnot, but you got to see how it works out first, how they're using their wide receivers, like where they're going to be playing. Like I know DeVonta Parker is exceptional outside and does very good in the intermediate routes and short routes and stuff like that. Is Waddle going to be using the slant? What's Will Fuller going to do? Is going to be an outside receiver going deep like he did in the past? Like I kind of think those guys with their skill set are similar, but you just got to see how they were utilizing the offense. Brian Flores is a smart coach, and I know he'll probably move him around or have the offensive coordinator move him around too. So there's something to be had, but like Tua just definitely needs to get off his conservative bandwagon and kind of let it rip. And they're giving him guys who can separate. So I know Tua can make it happen when he has like those more of a window with his used to be a talent in Alabama.
Exactly. I like that there, Jibs. For me personally, guys, like I wanted DeVonta Smith. I thought DeVonta Smith was the best wide receiver in this class here. Again, it is what it is. Now we have Jaylen Waddle. And you have to look at it as Jaylen Waddle is fast, and he can beat defenders very easy with his speed there. Now, if Miami can use him in the right way to get him into open space, to do something with the ball in his hand, he's a magic man. I mean, he'll just be gone any play. I mean, he had last year over his career in college, he had 14 touchdowns with 20 plus. There were 20 plus touchdowns. Like that's impressive. I mean, not many players can really do that to that kind of high level here. So again, it could be really good in fantasy. It may not be this year. It's possible. I mean, we don't really have a lot of depth in Miami, so he could end up starting as early as week 1 because Will Fuller's out week 1, so he could end up being the starting lineup and kind of just explode. But he also could just kind of not find the right fit for this offense here, and they don't use him the proper way. So he's a risky pick, but he could end up paying off in the really big for you at the end. He's like a high risk, high reward kind of player to his game here, and that's what you're doing when you take a guy like Jaylen Waddle from Miami now. So
yeah, I would be surprised if we don't get a handful of really good Jaylen Waddle highlights in 2021. I mean, he's going to have plays where you're like, okay, he's that kind of guy. He caught 3 passes and he got me 100 yards and a touchdown. That he's that kind of guy. Steven, I just wanted to ask you real quick because you're a Dolphins fan. I'm sure you're on the pulse. Like, if they didn't get Will Fuller in the offseason and they're sitting there at 6 because they're obviously considering Waddle or DeVonta Smith, do you think they got Waddle because it was more of a system thing? And like maybe if they didn't get Will Fuller, they would have gone after Smith?
No, I think it seemed like a lot of things I listened to and hear is that it was Waddle all the way. They loved Waddle. They loved what he brought to the team here. They loved his speed and explosiveness to kind of make this offense do more. Again, I thought Smith was personally the better fit underneath kind of routes with Tua there to kind of just get those 10 yards quickly. Yeah. But maybe they don't want to do that. They want to be more explosive. They don't want to be a team that throws for 5 or 6 yards every single play, and then that's it. It's just little plays to move down the field. They want Jaylen Waddle to explode with this team here. So I think that's why they went in that direction there, because they want to be more explosive with this offense. And even Will Fuller coming there, he brings his own explosiveness. So. And now we're going to talk about the player that I think, Steve, this might be your number 1 wide receiver, maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to find out here. But obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles, Jibs, your team here decided to say, hey, we're going to trade up with the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to have a little rivalry trade here and go get Jalen Hurts, a wide receiver, and DeVonta Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, the guy who had 200 yards in a first half of a national championship game here. Jibs, I'll let you go first with this one here. But do you like this fit with DeVonta Smith in Philly?
It's love and hate because Philadelphia could turn a wide receiver and make him into hot garbage really quick. Like you could see basically, you pretty much could go back basically I think the last serviceable quarterback they probably drafted was like Jeremy Maclin. That kind of panned out for a couple years, but DeVonta Smith, he's a little different. Heisman winning trophy winning wide receiver. You don't see that many often. And like you said, the guy's electric. Like if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a lot of like I know like there's a lot of the teams constructed similar as last year, but a lot of those targets feel empty to me. Like Greg Ward had 80 targets. Like come on, like he's going to be relegated to a slot receiver. Then you're going back to Travis Fulgham when he had that electric mid-season form. And he's been relegated to kind of a role. Alshon's gone, not that many targets. Jeffrey's gone. And I know Rager has a lot of improvement to be had there, but you also got to factor in what's going to happen to Zach Ertz. He had the third most targets on that team, so he's not coming in to be competing for a job. He's going to come in and have the job. He has a little rapport with Jalen Hurts, so like I don't see it's not going to be a bad time in my opinion. So like I think he can make an impact in redraft leagues. I think this year, like I'm not like touting it, but like he has the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you on that. I think he has an opportunity to really do something year one and beyond, obviously, because I liked him that much as my number one wide receiver before the draft. But Steven, is this your guy here? Is this the number one wide receiver you have, or are we talking about DeVonta Smith in a different way right now?
Yeah, it's got to be DeVonta. I mean, if it wasn't Waddle, it's got to be DeVonta, man. And and I actually had him ranked ahead of Chase before the draft, and I stuck with it. And it's an interesting decision because basically what I'm projecting is a ceiling, and the bigger ceiling of the two to me is DeVonta Smith. And what I see in DeVonta Smith, I mean, like, yeah, sure, he has the body of Deshaun Jackson. We love the breakaway speed and the separation and the deep ball. And so when you see that, you think Deshaun right away. And that's why, the Philly, the landing spot, that's what everyone wanted. But what he is actually at Alabama last year is not Deshaun Jackson. He's actually Devontae Adams. And what I mean by that is when you watch a game from Alabama and you just go through a series of downs, he's never in the same spot. He's outside, he's inside, he's getting the ball, maybe 3 of those 4 plays, but it's always different. It's a screen, it's a hitch, and then it's a go. He can do it all, and that's how he was used last year. So the Eagles it would benefit them if they just use him that way. If they don't put him in a role, if they don't put him and relegate him to, something like, he's just on the outside. He's just going to run 9 routes. He needs to be a possession guy. He needs to get targets. And yeah, you mentioned Jalen Hurts, and like they had like a very brief time together. I don't know how much of a rapport they have. I really honestly haven't looked into that at all. Not sure how close they are. But that could factor in because with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who's young, we saw last year the growing pains. You mentioned Greg Ward. He didn't have anybody out there. He leaned on Greg Ward at times. I mean, like if you play DFS, you're like,
Greg Ward money at the end of the year.
Yeah, man, because like he was looking for him. He had no one else to go to. You had old, slow, busted Zach Ertz and Travis Fulgham, who was a little inconsistent, with Jaylen. I mean, it's going to be interesting how it plays out with Rager and everything because I did like Rager. I'm worried about him right now that they brought in DeVonta Smith. I'm worried about how that's going to play out. Hopefully he can break through because it's going to be tough. Like you said, DeVonta Smith is coming in as the wide receiver 1. I see a big, big ceiling for him. Off the bat, JaMar Chase is going to be better than him. I believe that. I believe that Chase is ready right now for the NFL more so than DeVonta Smith. But what if Jalen Hurts is the ceiling that Jalen Hurts can be and DeVonta Smith hits that ceiling? It's going to be crazy for fantasy football.
Just if the Eagles know how to make sure they work their wide receivers. That's the only thing scares me about DeVonta Smith is the Philadelphia Eagles and their whatever they do. Whatever they're doing that GM office there, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I think he's a redraft guy that I'm looking to grab. I still love him in Dynasty. Again, I'd probably choose Chase slightly over him just because of the rapport, the offense he's going to be into. Smith, we don't know if Jalen Hurts is the actual answer there. It might be someone else in the future. Maybe Aaron Rodgers goes there. Who knows? It's a little fun situation. But you have to think that he's going to see a lot of targets and a lot of receptions in his career here. He's going to see probably over 100 targets in year one. And he's going to, again, he might not have the explosive plays consistently, but he's going to get you 8 for 70, because he's going to get a lot of dink and dunk passes that's going to get first downs and just kind of move this offense down the field. That's why I love DeVonta Smith so much, because you can use him in that way so easily. And his reach just gets you a first down, even though he's like 3 yards away from the first down. He'll get you that first down somehow in some way, which makes him, I just think, a very unique kind of football player. And you should be excited to kind of grab him in any kind of draft this year, whether it's redraft or in your rookie dynasties right now. I think he's just going to be a strong player that's going to be very consistent for you all season long.
And I love that we got through DeVonta Smith and didn't mention any BMI, anything like that. So it's all about the player, all about the situation, and he can definitely succeed. Look, this isn't 1998 anymore, guys. Like, this is a passing league. I mean, it's the NFL. It's a big, big money maker, and they want points. They want fantasy points to believe it. So DeVonta Smith is in a good situation.
100% agree with that. And we move on to the next pick on the draft here, Kadarius Toney. The New York Giants, New York Giants took him with the 20th pick here. To me, somewhat of a head-scratching kind of pick here with Kenny Galladay already signing. They had Sterling Shepard. They have Darius Slayton. But, Steve, Toney in New York, what does this do for you?
It doesn't do a lot. I think the Giants got themselves in a situation, and Jason Garrett's on that staff, and he missed out on Cortland Sutton a couple years ago with the Cowboys, and they ended up getting Michael Gallup in the 3rd round as a consolation prize. This feels like their consolation prize for not being active at all and just watching the Eagles trade up and get DeVonta Smith. And yeah, if you guys wanted a wide receiver, go and get I think they just kind of just throw some stuff at the wall and see what happens, and Kadarius Toney, he had a good season, like just one good season in the final year. I mean, he's obviously an explosive guy, very athletic with the ball in his hand. He's not a prototypical wide receiver one, so he's not going to demand a high volume right off the bat. And then you add in that, look, there's a bunch of, we're not even talking about Saquon Barkley, who's going to command 100 targets by himself, 80 to 100 targets by himself. So I think you can just look at Kadarius Toney right now as more proof that the Giants are trying to be more explosive, trying to give Daniel Jones playmakers. It's really all up to him right now, because he does have a lot of them. And I think that's what this pick says to me, is that Daniel Jones has more of a chance right now in fantasy, because they're really trying to set him up to get that outlet, get the ball to Toney, on a screen and let him work, something like that. But again, he's not a high volume guy. It's not going to be very relevant for fantasy football this year. And really, there are players that you can get at a discount in rookie drafts that I would take over Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Again, it's a head scratching kind of move here. But Jibs, over to you, my friend. Kadarius Toney doesn't have a natural position, you could say, in terms of a wide receiver. And he's also got Daniel Jones there now as his quarterback, of course. Do you see any success with this combo?
Like short term? No, definitely not. I had to see Joe Judge put him in there for like cutesy plays. Like they had Sterling Shepard doing like jet sweeps and stuff like that like last year. And it worked out, but now they have like a player that they're investing capital in to do that. So I could see him like impacting on plays like that. But besides that, they brought in Kenny Galladay, paid him $18 million a year. I know they still have Shepard and they still have Slayton there. They're not like the best, but surely I know their contracts are probably soon to be up. So like maybe next year Kadarius Toney can make an impact, but not expecting anything this year. And it's definitely contingent on how you feel about Daniel Jones. Me, not a supporter, not that guy. But if you feel good about Daniel Jones improving, making that step forward as a quarterback in the NFL, then you should be a bigger believer in Kadarius Toney.
He's going around like the 2.5 in a lot of drafts here. Do you guys consider that a steal? Or is it, yeah, that's fine with me.
If you can get him later than 205 and you look at the board, I mean, that it starts to thin out pretty quickly. And it's not the worst pick at the end of the second round. But there's a couple players that we're going to talk about that if they're still on the board, I would take them. So it really just depends. Yeah, I mean, Jibs, like you said, I mean, like they're going to put him in that role that they had Sterling Shepard in. I mean, and then they can put Sterling Shepard more in that traditional slot without having to do those plays as often. So, yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing is this is a player that they drafted high draft capital, but it's really a system type of thing where they really want to do something with their offense that's specific to what Toney can do. And I think it'll work out. It's just not going to be very fantasy relevant.
Yeah, and first round capital, maybe they find ways to use him as much as possible. You know, it's possible that's why you draft first round capital players, because they're going to get an opportunity more than once. So we'll see how it goes with Toney in New York. But on to the next one now. The Baltimore Ravens went out there and killed so many people who love Rashod Bateman's dreams here and selected him at the 27th pick here. And Jibs, Bateman is a special type of player. But he plays in the offense that's been 32nd in the league back-to-back years in passing plays per game here. Do you see success with a guy like Bateman? Because he's a different type of player than, say, Hollywood Brown or any other wide receiver that Lamar Jackson's had over the years.
I just want to do the Jordan crying face, just talking about this. It hurts me, but I think he can have success, maybe long term. I don't know what the situation is going to be with Marquise Brown. Maybe he just kind of wants to get out of town eventually. But besides that, I just don't think it's going to happen this year. It's very hard with that offense. I know they're very run oriented, and besides that, after Mark Andrews, it's you're getting Marquise Brown getting 7 targets, maybe 4 catchable balls and whatnot. I know Bateman's definitely more of that classic big guy who could catch a lot of things and of that nature. So I think he'll get some thread, but there's not that much passing volume on the Ravens at all. It's unbearable. A great fantasy team, but just no offense.
Could not agree with you more, Jibs. And Steve, is this feel like a pick that you kind of just stay away from if you have to?
I'm comfortable taking him in the back of the first in rookie drafts, especially if we're talking about single quarterback. I see him falling into that 109, 110 range. I'm comfortable taking Rashod Bateman. I mean, he is that prototypical wide receiver one now for this team. And, we see Hollywood Brown get 100 targets last year. I think we can see Rashod Bateman. I mean, we've been talking about that 100 target mark, now there's 17 games, so that might be a little bit easier to achieve. But look, yeah, it's a small pie. We're not getting a lot big passing. It's not a Joe Burrow and 600 pass attempts. That's not what we're getting here. But I do want to just say that, things change in Dynasty. If this is a Dynasty pick and you believe in Rashod Bateman and you're at the 108, 109, and it makes sense for you to take him. If that's who you have ranked higher, because things change. Like A.J. Brown a couple years ago. If you loved A.J. Brown and then all of a sudden the Titans drafted him with Marcus Mariota, you were upset and you might have faded A.J. Brown. How do you feel now? Don't do that with Rashod Bateman. That's just the advice I have. No, I'm not thrilled about it. It's not, he didn't go into a situation that's a big passing offense, but he is the one right now. And who knows what's going to happen with Hollywood. Those same people that were doubting Hollywood, they should be very excited about Bateman. If you were doubting Hollywood as a wide receiver one, well, they got him now, and Lamar Jackson, it could change. I mean, I'm telling you, it could change. One injury, a couple injuries to the offense line, and then maybe Dobbins goes down. You're stuck with Gus Edwards.
No.
And then
Don't say that.
I'm just saying,
it's bad juju.
Look, it could happen where, Lamar Jackson has to pass a little bit more, and maybe it could happen not this year, but the next year. And then all of a sudden you want Rashod Bateman because all of a sudden they're passing the ball a lot more. It could change, so that's all I'm saying. I think Bateman's a great player. I think that his separation is elite. His skills at separating and catching the ball are elite. So when it comes to most complete guys in this class, JaMar Chase, and then I got Bateman as right up there with DeVonta Smith as being a very complete wide receiver.
All I can think is Robbie Rumboy ripping me for saying that Bateman isn't that great. That was a fun day there. Oh, Robbie, hope you're listening to this podcast at some point.
Great. He's
what it is that it's the passing volume. And again, hopefully that changes over the years. Again, you have to assume, like Steven said, that the talent sometimes will eventually outweigh the situation. And I think if you're taking him at the back of the round 1 kind of situation, yeah, I think you should go grab a guy like that because he's very talented, and it's not going to always be the same. They're not going to be the 32nd team in passing for the rest of their career, his career probably. They're going to eventually get up. It's going to be better at some point. So, yeah, take him in the back of round 1 and hope that the talent eventually they see that and he becomes the true number 1 wide receiver, seeing 8 to 9 targets a game here and being really good for your fantasy team here. Again, it may not be year 1. You may not want to consider this guy year 1 because it may not be to that situation. But in the future, in terms of dynasty, yeah, look for a guy like Bateman because his talent could eventually overtake the situation at hand right now.
And my one last point on Bateman is like you would figure like it's an NFL point, not really a fantasy point, but the Ravens are a great team last couple of years, but they just can't get over that hump. And they had pretty much the same core, a couple of different like shabby like third wide receivers and below. But now that they have like you said, an elite kind of like X receiver, that alpha dog in the room, maybe they could kind of proceed and like become a better passing team. And then I think that's the only thing they're missing. If they could learn how to pass when they need to, I think they could get the job done. But if they rely on the run, if you ain't winning, you ain't gonna be doing that.
Yeah, and at this point, you can only project Bateman's ceiling to be a very solid wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. That's his ceiling right now, based on how this offense projects. I mean, he could be a very solid wide receiver 2 for your team. I think that's very possible in his range of outcomes in the next couple of years.
Very much agree with that one. And let's head over to round 2, though. There's a lot of wide receivers still in round 2 here we got to talk about. And the first one is probably one of my favorite players in the entire draft is Elijah Moore. From Ole Miss, heads to the New York Jets here with an opportunity to possibly start week 1 here. And Steven, I'll take this back to you here. We always know there's also, Corey Davis and Crowder and Denzel Mims there. But again, no one's really stepped up to be a true wide receiver 1 on that team over their career. Can Elijah Moore be that guy? Can he rise to the occasion here?
Yeah, I mean, he really comes in and is going to be Jamison Crowder 2.0. I mean, they have 2 very good slot receivers right now for Zach Wilson. But the difference with Elijah Moore and Jamison Crowder, besides age, and they drafted him to be Zach Wilson's wide receiver, just like they drafted Michael Carter to come in and hopefully be that number 1 running back for this team. They're doing the same thing with Elijah Moore. It's a completely new offense. They're saying, just throw all the ghosts back in the closet with Sam Darnold. We're done with that. And we're bringing in Zach Wilson. Elijah Moore's the guy. Corey Davis is I think he's going to be okay. I think he'll be all right for fantasy purposes, in a best ball situation. But he's not going to command the volume. So you're going to see Moore be the outlet for Zach Wilson for years to come. I mean, if it works with Wilson, Moore's going to go as far as Wilson goes right now. And if Wilson works, then Moore is going to be, peppered with targets. It could be very good. Yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping for. Even though even though he went to the Jets, but two of my favorite players in this draft went to the team I hate the most.
It's crazy.
It's rough, but yeah, you get to look at it as a fantasy aspect, not a football fan. So, Jibs, with their situation, likely they're probably behind a lot of games, force them to pass here. Is he worth an opportunity to take a shot on late in drafts, or is it you have to probably wait and see before you really trust him on the field?
You gotta definitely see how the training camp reports are coming out. But if he's getting like some I guess like significant buzz, like you definitely would want to take a late round shot on him. But I don't think like that would be the case unless like some contracts or some players get cut. Like Jamison Crowder, I think they could save. They won't take a cap hit basically if they cut him. So like that could be like a person that we kind of like speculated that he could kind of grow into that role. But I think he could he's like, I've been listening to New York sports radio and the draft analysts last week, and they just been salivating over this guy, how the Jets got a steal. And I'm just like, I don't get what they're saying. And then I look at the tape and then I'm like, oh, I see why they're saying that. So the Jets got a lot of work and they're going to make it work. So I'm a believer.
Yeah, like I said, you guys listened to our wide receiver episode. I was all about Elijah Moore here. His separation, his speed. He's more. I think he can be more than just a slot guy. He can, you call Jamison Crowder straight a slot guy. Elijah Moore can do more than just be a slot guy. He can do a lot more with that. And I think that was a great pick for the New York Jets to grab at the 202. Again, we'll see how the season goes because Jamison Crowder could be cut, and they could just say, Elijah Moore, you're our number 3 starter here now. Let's do it. And he could end up having a pretty strong season here to be that slot guy, to kind of be that safety blanket for a guy like Zach Wilson very early in his career here. And he's worth a pick in that early round 2 spot there. He's going at like the 2-2, 2-3 in a lot of rookie drafts. You're getting a steal, I think, at that point, and getting a guy who can be a top 24 wide receiver for many years in this league here. So love the opportunity for a guy like Elijah Moore. And going over to another Moore. There's so many Moores in this draft. I lost it. There we go. Rondale Moore. I think at 5'9", Elijah Moore. 5'7", Rondale Moore. Goes to the Arizona Cardinals, which I thought was somewhat of a surprise pick for them, honestly. But again, it makes somewhat sense what they like to do. A lot of 4 wide receiver sets here. And Steve, Elijah Moore, can he, for his size and injury history, can he kind of exceed expectations and be better?
Rondale Moore can definitely exceed expectations. I think for NFL purposes, for fantasy purposes, I really look at this as kind of like the Giants Kadarius Toney pick. It really helps this offense more than anything. It gives them a decoy. It gives them a guy they can run jet sweeps. And, as soon as he's on the field, just like, Mecole Hardman or someone like that, defenses have to know. The coaches are shouting his number, and to let them know that he's on the field, locate him. That's how this is going to be. That's how good and athletic he is. So this can be very good, for the Arizona Cardinals. They just have such good pass catchers, and then you bring in him. I think a lot of people are scratching their heads, but it does a lot for Kyler Murray. Just like for the Giants, I think Kadarius Toney does more for Daniel Jones. This does more for Kyler. So it gives them another playmaker. I don't think he's necessarily fantasy relevant for redraft, and I'm not very interested in dynasty. I'm way more interested in a receiver like Elijah Moore when it comes to dynasty purposes. But Moore can exceed expectations for sure as far as an NFL standpoint.
All right, now left that one there. And Jibs, question for you here. Now I'm trying to think of it at the top of my head here, my guy. Moore has an injury history pass here. How much does that impact your decision on a guy like that?
You should definitely weigh the consequences of his injury history, but I don't think it will be that significant. Like moving forward, like he's still playing behind AJ Green, he's still playing behind Hopkins, Kirk, maybe Isabella. So like he could get injured at camp or whatever, but like I just believe long term, if I'm kind of weighing the risk in a dynasty perspective, I'll take the risk. Like I think the guy's speed is electric, and Kyler Murray with that offense, I know DeAndre Hopkins is gonna be king on the offense for many years to come, but I believe him and Kyler can make very good utilization of the short passing game attack.
Yeah, definitely like that take there a lot, Chips. You also think like Andy Isabella was like the 2-2 in the draft 2 years ago, 2019 draft, and clearly he's not panning out the right way. I don't expect him to be on the team probably by the side of the season. But Rondale Moore, he's a different type of player than Andy Isabella was. I think he's more athletic than Andy Isabella was, and he could do things. It's just, is he going to get an opportunity early on? Probably not. And I think there has to be a role set for him if they're going to use him properly. He's not just a normal wide receiver. You have to use him in a special way. There's a lot of wide receivers in this class that you have to use in the right way, or they're just not going to succeed in the NFL here. And Rondale Moore is one of those wide receivers. Again, I'd be a little scared to take him, but you have to assume that the Cardinals are going to throw a lot of 4 wide receiver sets out there, and he could have opportunity that way to score a lot of touchdowns and get a lot of yards very quickly. So it's another risk-reward factor with a guy like Rondale Moore right now.
And one thing with Moore, they went out and got James Conner. Okay, that's meh. And then they still have Chase Edmonds. I think that they're allocating some carries for Rondale Moore. I think that, like we see Robert Woods and Tyreek Hill, they just get a couple extra 100 yards rushing. Rondale Moore is probably going to get a couple 100 yards rushing, so you kind of factor that into his fantasy. Because when I look at him, I just think Tariq Cohen. like when I look at Rondale more like the body type, but he's a receiver, and the way his skill set is actually like more like Curtis Samuel, and he's like that. Those two players combined, and he really is electric. So they're gonna try to get the ball in his hands. I think that's definitely. I'm confident when I say that, but I just don't think it's going to be very fantasy relevant.
That's a sick combo, Steve. I like that combo a lot there. That could do some work in the NFL and possibly in fantasy.
Exactly. That's why you have to like weigh your options when you're on the clock. Because like if you want a player like that, exactly, that's what fantasy football is all about. Is that kind of player.
His upside is likely he'll be a wide receiver 3 in fantasy for a couple seasons at least. He probably will never be a 1, maybe a 2, maybe once, but it'll definitely be a 3 possibly for a long time. Right. And hovering over to our next tight end here, Pat Freiermuth. I'm saying it wrong today. Sorry, Jibs. He goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know, on somewhat of a luxury pick here, but I think it was a smart pick, even though they probably should have went O-line or corner. How do we feel about this pick here, Jibs? I'll let you go first here. Can this guy be kind of someone that you want to grab and stash for right now?
Yeah, I would like to grab and stash. Oh, wait. I don't know. I don't want to grab and stash him.
You don't want to grab and stash him? Okay.
No. Because like Pittsburgh hasn't shown me like that many indications like what their hand is going to be after. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is going to be out of the league because I thought he was kind of washed up last year, and he chose to go along one more year. But what's going to happen next year? Is going to be Dwayne Haskins there? Is going to be another quarterback? Is going to be someone? Mason Rudolph. Okay, so that's year 2. Year 3, you might get a quarterback. I think it's going to be a long time for this guy to be very impactful and consistently and I guess a dynasty perspective. So, like, don't get me wrong, this guy has like everything you want in a tight end. Like back in like the 90s, he could block, he got the good passing ability. But like this is 2020, baby. I need them finesse guys. I need my Kelseys and all that type of world with a good quarterback. So that's my only bad thing on it. But if Big Ben wants to do as like Tom Brady, hey, Mike could do a little magic.
Well, clearly he's not a redraft guy, so we'll stick with the dynasty talk here. So, Steve, how do you feel about Pat sitting in Pittsburgh?
I mean, he's like Keith Miller 2.0, which is fine.
Perfect.
Love Keith Miller.
Yeah, I'm all about the player comps right now. I don't know why, but it's like he's fine if, like you said, Jibs, like if Ben Roethlisberger was going to pull a Tom Brady, then yeah, he'd be good. He'd be fine because Eric Ebron's probably going to find another team sooner or later. And then he'll be by himself here. But they did bring him in to, he is a very good blocker. He's an all-around tight end like Jason Witten. I mean, he is that kind of guy. So he's going to have a long career in the NFL. I think he could put together a couple, like 40 to 60 catch seasons when he's the only guy in town if he's getting that kind of target share. I mean, obviously, Juju's going to leave at some point too. So it's going to be interesting how it pans out. Right now it looks kind of foggy. It's definitely not a clear situation for Dynasty. In tight end premiums, you're obviously looking at him. I would say he's probably my 3rd tight end right now. I do like draft capital, but I really do believe they brought him in specifically to help out with that run blocking as of right now.
Yeah, that's how I see it too. He's a really great blocker, and they lost Vance McDonald to retirement this year, so it made perfect sense to go get a guy like that to replace him like right now. And again, Ebron's gone after this season. I think his contract was only 2 years, so this is his last season probably in Pittsburgh. And again, Juju could be gone. I think he's a great stash if you're, especially in a tight end premium league, and you're looking to just throw a guy in your taxi squad for a couple of years and see, hey, in 2 or 3 years from now, we don't know the quarterback situation. Sometimes it might not matter. People can still perform without a great quarterback. We've seen it all the time. And he has that talent to do so. Blake Bortles, let's be real. We've seen it before. So it's possible he's a great stash, end of round 2, round 3 kind of player, especially in tight end premiums. It's worth a grab and see because he's got talent. It's just that the situation right now isn't great for him right now. But it could clear up in a year or 2, maybe 3. All right. And on to the next wide receiver here. Dwayne Eskridge, I spelled his name wrong here. I put a B in there for some reason. So I'll fix that in a second here. But Steve, a lot of people loved Eskridge coming out from the draft here. And he lands in a situation where he's not going to be a wide receiver 2 or 1. He's going to be the wide receiver 3 at best. Do you see him kind of filling in and making an impact as the 3rd wide receiver in Seattle?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, it's not a big deal, but David Moore is gone. I'm pretty sure. Not sure what Philip Dorsett is doing. Is he still hanging around Seattle?
I think he's not. I think he's with the Jaguars.
Oh.
He signed with the Jags.
There are targets to be had, is the point. I mean, I'm not saying Dorsett did anything last year, but Wilson did look to David Moore when he was in trouble, when he wanted that big play. So there is room for him to be that wide receiver 3. He kind of checks out more of that Tyler Lockett kind of guy. Like, he is that smaller, faster dude. And again, this is another pick for the system, for Russell Wilson. Get him some playmakers, stop having these B-tier receivers after, DK. I mean, they just had DK for only 2 years now. So it's not like they've, had a long history with this guy, but they finally are setting Russell Wilson up with a lot of talent. And yeah, that's what this guy is. He's a lot of talent. We'll get the ball in his hands and let him be electric. They moved up to get this, to get Eskridge, right? I mean,
Russell Wilson was so happy.
Yeah, exactly. So this is big for Russell Wilson more than anything. I think that he's an interesting dynasty stash for sure. You're probably going to get some good value on him. He's not going to be, he's going to be probably in the 3rd round, probably drop into the 3rd round, I would imagine. So yeah, I think you're going to get a decent value. And things can happen, man. Things can happen quick. If Tyler Lockett moves on and then all of a sudden he's in that role, I mean, that could be very, very good for fantasy. So this is an interesting stash to me.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot there. Jibs, over to you. As the wide receiver 3 in a run first team, does that scare you at all with Eskridge?
Yeah, no. If he's the wide receiver 3, I'm just kind of thinking like he'll just be David Moore, just like you said, but he'll be better. Like, I know David Moore was good for 2 or 3 games last year where he had maybe 4 receptions and 70 to 80 yards in the touchdown on a deep bomb, and I'm sure he'll get that. He's better than him as constituted, I think, because David Moore is just a guy. But he just wanted to reunite with his brother D Moore in Carolina. But literally, I think Eskridge he can make an impact on that team sooner than later. Like, we saw the variations of how that offense can work, and it just gives him Russell Wilson another explosive kind of playmaker. And maybe he can cook and have it sustain, not just cook and burn it up like we saw last year.
Right. No, exactly. And I think he can be an impactful player because of his speed and ability on the field here. They're going to, I mean, if they ever let Russ cook again, which would be great, we'd be talking to him in even a better fashion. But I think he could make an impact, and he could be someone that you could toss in there during bye weeks at times, I think, and get you in the right matchup, a great fantasy week to put you as a wide receiver 3 or better a couple of weeks during the season here. So I think he's definitely a guy worth grabbing because, again, Tyler Lockett, we don't know if his contract's going to be, you got to sign a 4-year contract, but he might not play for you. He might play 2 years and then be out. So Eskridge, I think, is a great grab to stash and link with a guy like Russell Wilson right now that you want to go out there and grab. And then to this next pick here, I hate to do this, but Tutu Atwell. The Rams' first pick of the entire draft here. They didn't have a first-round pick, and they have Bob Woods, they have Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson. So it was only natural for them to take a wide receiver here in their very first pick, and a wide receiver who is basically the size of me, I think, with athletic ability at least. And Tutu Atwell, Jibs, he's a small guy here, but do you like this pick at all?
I hate this pick, and I just want to see what happens when he plays the San Francisco 49ers defense.
And just get destroyed.
But, literally, he's just going to be – I think he's just going to be a gadget player. I don't think he's going to have, significant role on the offense. But
special teams.
He's going to have, special teams boy. But, I just really see, Tavon Austin. And I don't want a Tavon Austin type player unless it's, literally your last pick in the 4th round, and you're just hey, I don't know who to pick, and then this guy got picked by a 2nd round. At least he has significant draft capital attached to him. I'll go that route, but other than that, I'm not expecting anything explosive for 2021 or beyond.
Yeah, and that's also Deshaun Jackson's there at least this year. I mean, you can't only count him for 4 games, but he's still there this season here. So Steve, though, Tutu Atwell, anything positive to say about it?
Man, I keep forgetting Deshaun Jackson's on the Rams.
I
Like
just,
with Matthew Stafford, that's going to be very interesting, actually. But yeah, Tutu, they just wanted another playmaker. It's the same sort of thing with Kadarius Toney, same sort of idea with Rondale Moore. I mean, get a kind of a playmaker that you can run the gadget plays, run the jet sweeps, run some RPOs. I mean, that's what he is. So no, you got to fade him for fantasy. Don't get fooled with the draft capital. There's a lot of other players that are better to pick wherever it is. I don't know. I don't care where you are. You could probably get a better pick than this in rookie drafts.
probably so. I think I've seen him go undrafted in a couple of my rookie picks. So rookie
I
draft.
picked him up with like the 44th pick, and I was just perplexed and just wanted to end the draft.
I probably would have just dropped him. I was like, I'm dropping him by week
Right.
1. So
Exactly.
I have no interest in this pick, guys. It makes no sense. It won't be for another year or two, at least. Maybe year 3 has a value at some point, but I just can't be consistent enough. So on to the last guy in the second round here. Terrace Marshall was rising up draft boards the last 2 months of the season here. People love Terrace Marshall here, and he ends up in a situation where he's not going to be a wide receiver 2 off the bat, but it'll be the wide receiver 3 more than likely, unless David Moore, the average man, can beat him out. But Steve, Terrace Marshall, do you like this pick?
Love this pick. Love the fit. Didn't know I would love the fit until it happened. And then I was looking at it like, okay. I mean, Terrace Marshall, these guys going off the board like Tutu and Kadarius Toney. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I thought the Titans should have taken Terrace Marshall. I thought that would have been a very, very smart pick for them. But there are question marks, obviously. It's not just a home run. I mean, he didn't play no, he did play last year, but there was an injury and there's some off-field issues, and there's some concerns there from a lot of staff. That's why he dropped, obviously. So, yeah, I mean, I like Terrace Marshall a lot. I mean, this is like – I've seen comparisons to DK Metcalf. I don't like that necessarily. I think he's his own player. I think that he's a big body receiver that can get that 50-50 ball. He's going to be a touchdown threat. And they can change this offense around. You don't have to give Robbie Anderson 90 catches. That's not him. You don't need to do that. Let DJ Moore play in the slot, and then you have a burner on the outside with Robbie, a burner on the outside with Terrace Marshall, and you make things very comfortable from Sam Darnold. You want to make it as comfortable as it could possibly be. With CMC coming out of the backfield, this offense is going to be very fantasy friendly the way I see it right now, and Terrace Marshall is going to be a part of it immediately. So, even in redraft purposes, I do believe that he's relevant. You can pick him with the last pick, best ball, take him. And look, second round is great value for Terrace Marshall in rookie drafts right now.
Yeah, he's definitely a second round player that he's going everywhere. A lot of people seem to like this pick a lot. Jibs, he's got Sam Darnold as his quarterback here now. I mean, can you trust him to have that kind of impact year 1? Or are we looking more of a year 2 when maybe Robbie Anderson leaves?
I don't think he's like impact. Like, I don't think he's gonna be like a wide receiver 2, like by the season end. But like, I think he could be someone who's gonna be fantasy relevant for quite a long basis of the season. You gotta think about it. Like, I don't care if Sam Darnold's in town. Like, is it gonna be upgrade over Teddy B? Probably. But like, Joe Brady was Terrace Marshall's offensive coordinator at LSU. Sam has some rapport with Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore is a stud wide receiver, young wide receiver, and the Carolina Panthers sustained 3 top 36 wide receivers, I believe, last year. And I know Curtis Samuel left town, and you could divvy up his targets however you want. And Christian McCaffrey didn't play a lot of games, but Mike Davis kind of made up on his due time off. So I think Terrace Marshall could easily get 80 targets given this offensive scheme. I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 receivers went over 100 because they did it last year. And Panthers defense still to that point, like, not going to be that great, not going to be that bad, but the NFC South is high scoring game, so there's always opportunity for fantasy. So that's why when we draft, like, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, all these NFC South players, we love them because they score points. And I think this Carolina's Panthers, just like his point before, gold mine for fantasy.
Yeah. Like I said, I like the pick there for sure. I don't know if I like Terrace Marshall year one because I don't know how impactful CMC is going to be when he's back on the field here. I mean, it's not Mike Davis. You're going to expect that CMC is going to have over 100 targets this coming season. It doesn't matter which way or not. As long as he's on the field, he's going to see a lot of targets here. DJ Moore is a slot guy probably this year. I mean, Sam Darnold seemed comfortable with using the slot guy, and obviously he's been comfortable using Robbie Anderson, that 1 year connection they have. So Marshall might not see that big impact year one, but I think his impact over his career will be really good to be with a guy like CMC and DJ Moore, I think, in the future here and make that impact as a bigger body touchdown wide receiver type of player. So in the round two, I think it's a perfect kind of guy to grab right now. Redrafts probably would just stay away this year, but he's got a good future, I think, with Carolina right now.
You're on the clock.
Am I on the clock? Well, I'll get it after we're done podding here. So heading into the third round here, we're going to kind of group all these guys together at this point here now. Steve, out of the third round here with Josh Palmer, De'Ami Brown, Mari Rogers, Nico Collins, Anthony Schwartz, which one of these guys do you like the best right now to want to grab?
Yeah, I mean, of these guys, Nico Collins is my favorite receiver before the draft. This was the guy I was looking at and was hoping he could be scooped up in the second round. When all these teams were drafting, making weird decisions, they could have been drafting Nico Collins. Yeah, exactly. They could have been drafting Nico Collins. But, I mean, there's a lot of targets to be had in Detroit. So, Amon-Ra obviously is when you talk about volume, when you talk about value also in a draft, I think that's who you probably want to look for. But as far as talent goes and as far as like who's my favorite of these guys, Nico Collins is that guy. And look, it's a very murky situation in Houston. If Deshaun Watson somehow manages to play after all this, then you have a chance for Nico Collins to, win a job and win a starting role because there's not a lot of depth there at wide receiver. And there is a void to be filled there. So he actually does have some very interesting opportunity. And then again, for dynasty purposes, okay, maybe Watson doesn't play this year or misses some games, but he's still going to play again. We would imagine, does he not play in Houston? We don't know. But as we project it right now, he's still in Houston. So I think that there is upside with Collins. I do still like him in this spot.
All right. Chips, anyone here that you want to mention real quick?
I'm just going to go we're talking about all the rest of the rounds.
What?
Or just 4 and 5?
Or just these 3 and 4.
Oh, 3 and 4.
4's here too. If you want to see 4, you can go into 4 too. That's fine.
Well, I agree. I love Nico Collins out of the whole group. Then for round 3, I just want to give a shout out for these tight ends real quick. Trey McKitty and Hunter Long. You want to speculate on their I guess you want to speculate on Mike Gesicki and then obviously Jared Cook's contract situation. They're both going to be due to be free agents next year. Obviously, Jared Cook is a short-term solution for the Chargers, so you can see Trey McKitty. Obviously, he needs to work on his receiving work, but he is a great blocking tight end, so you could get better at catching the ball, but you can't teach a tight end how to block nowadays, so that's one thing going in his favor. And then Hunter Long, he profiles similar as Mike Gesicki, so he kind of just seamlessly fit in the offense if they decide to move on with them after the end of the season. So those would be my round 3 guy.
All right. No, I definitely like it.
And then shout out to Des Fitzpatrick, obviously with Corey Davis leaving town. There's opportunity to be had there.
Good call.
Definitely a great call. And you guys obviously like Ramon St. Brown, right? You said already, Steve?
Oh, I like him too.
Yeah, who's their one right now? Is it Rashard Perryman? I mean, it's so interesting there with their depth chart.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's wheels up for him. I think he's a good value in rookie drafts right now.
Yeah, definitely. I like a lot of the round 3 guys. I mean, outside of Anthony Schwartz, I think are all great values to pick. I think all of them could see starting lineups in year 2. In terms of the wide receivers here in round 4, I mean, Brown, Fitzpatrick has an opportunity to start year 1. The rest of the guys, maybe Tyron Wallace gets an opportunity at some point. I don't really see Jacob Harris having any opportunity. Darden having maybe an opportunity once the whole veteran presence leaves in Tampa. But these rounds here, some of these guys, better than others, like St. Brown and Fitzpatrick here. Just one other guy I want to talk about real quick here. Actually, Steven, who was your number 2 tight end in this class?
Oh, it was Hunter Long.
Oh, it was Hunter Long. All right, I'll talk about Hunter Long real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mike Gesicki comparison is definitely legitimate. And like I said, like they want things to be comfortable for Tua, so you put 2 tight ends out there, and I think that's what they're going to run. They're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, and then they're going to switch it up completely and bring out 3 wide receivers. I think they want to be dynamic as an offense. They want to try to make things not as one-dimensional as they did last year, and Hunter Long is a part of that. So yeah, exactly. You get Gesicki in a contract year, and let's see what happens. I mean, I think they had drafted Hunter Long to be that replacement. So very interesting dynasty pick.
Gosh, I hope not. I love Mike Gesicki as a player, and he's from Jersey too, which makes it even better.
Yeah, I think the switching of regime, switching of the quarterback, it didn't work out in his favor for whatever reason. But I mean, I hope he ends up in a good situation, because I thought he was going to be very good. And this jury's still out. I mean, he did have flashes last year.
He can ball.
Yeah, he can ball. It just has to be more consistent.
Yeah.
And then just a couple other players down here, guys. Round 6. I'll just name a guy because this is my territory, I guess. Here are some players here. Des Newsome from Chicago. I think he's a great guy to grab in that late round 3, early round 4 type of play. I mean, you could really argue that he was the better of the wide receiver between him and Brown and UNC here. And Allen Robinson's going after this coming season here. Newsome could really just step in and fill in that, number 2 spot very easily, or 1 spot, whatever it may be, coming next season here. Anyone else that really slips in my head? Do you guys have anyone you guys want to mention in this group?
Not this group, no.
Not this group. All right, that's fine.
Man's land for me.
Round 7, there wasn't anyone that really sticks out to me per se. A guy like Des Mile will somehow be I feel like a wide receiver that will be in this league for a long time somehow, just by his character traits and the way he is in the field here. He'll probably be in New England in a couple of years here, because I believe he is like a white receiver, so he'll probably be in New England by next year. And then just some of the guys I really want to talk about that's undrafted that will probably spark and make some interest by the time we get to camp, and it's Jonathan Adams. If you guys heard me talk about Jonathan Adams as one of the guys I really loved in this draft here, went to Detroit. Him and Sage Surratt both went there. Both these guys I really liked coming into this draft here. And, Steve mentioned already, Rashod Perryman is their wide receiver 1. That's not going to stick all season long. So
That's
one of these guys.
12 games right there.
Exactly. Maybe not even 12. Who knows? One of these guys could end up sticking around. Austin Watkins is a guy that a lot of people loved coming into this draft here. Landon San Fran, again, not a horrible situation because they need a wide receiver 3, another Kendrick Bourne kind of player to kind of fill in there. Watkins could possibly do that. And then Seattle grabbed a couple great guys in Kay Johnson and Tremont Terry. Again, they might not have the best opportunity because they did get Eskridge, but just guys to keep your eye on as you're drafting your drafts this coming season. So. Brevin Jordan. I wanted to mention Brevin Jordan. He's somewhere here. The tight end group. I don't know where he's at. He's on my board here somewhere.
Round 3.
Here it is. The round 4 and 5 tight ends here. Brevin Jordan, very athletic player. Kind of why he just fell in drafts. So you kind of thought him was more of an athletic kind of guy than an actual tight end. But I mean, he lands in Houston, where everything's up for grabs in Houston. So
there's nothing there.
Exactly. Is there anyone else you guys want to mention before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Austin Schwartz for Cleveland is very interesting. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I would say, is better, as far as a prospect. And then they have Rashad Higgins, who Baker Mayfield seems to have a rapport with. But again, things can change. Depth charts can change. That's a very interesting name just because he is freakishly fast. When you have a nickname like Flash, that you're fast. I mean, you don't have to see any 40 times. Did they call him Flash? Okay, yeah, he's fast. And that's all you need to know with him. So, again, these offenses are adding playmakers, adding, these new generation receivers that can be dynamic, get handoffs, can take it to the house, can also return punts. This is the kind of guy that's being drafted right now. It's not necessarily a wide receiver 1. It's not necessarily fantasy relevant, but it can be great for the offense itself. So that's just kind of another example of that.
Sources say 4.25 40.
Yeah, he was
blazing.
Fastest time in the draft, if I'm not mistaken. So, Jibs, you want to mention anybody before we sign off?
Yeah. If you're drafting these round 6 and 7 guys, or I feel bad for you, bud.
I mean, I still like Newsom, but yeah, I mean, they're not a lot of them won't stick by the time the start of the season happens. It's just the way it is in the NFL. So, yeah, we highlighted a bunch of players for you guys as rookie drafts, and even during the season here, we'll probably talk more about these rookies as the whole season goes on. So before we get going, Steve, just let everyone know where they can find you out on social media and anything you guys might be working on.
Dude, thanks for having me, guys. No, it's been a blast talking these rookie prospects. I just want to correct myself. It's Anthony Shorts, not Austin Shorts. But yeah, you can find all my stuff at the Hot Take Podcast. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Pods, iHeartRadio, all that. In a couple weeks, we're going to have Denny Carter on. I'm very excited about that, of NBC Edge, or NBC Sports Edge. And I'm going to be doing some things for the Player Profiler Roto Underworld World Famous Draft Kit this offseason.
Nice.
And in season, I do positional rankings for guillotineleagues.com. So check out that in season. And yeah, I'm just excited to talk these rookies and get on with my drafts this weekend, man.
I mean, I'm already doing them, and they're a lot of fun. You're gonna have the same amount of fun, I'm sure, as I am. So, but yeah.
Your league concept this year, do a guillotine league. That's a special one this year.
For what?
What's that?
Well, we usually do like a special league.
Oh yeah,
like a different kind of league every year. And I'm suggesting that we do a guillotine league.
Yeah. No, we'll keep in touch. Honestly, because Paul Charchian has the guillotine league set up, and we can get in there. It's very fun, man. I mean, it's basically like a hardcore role playing game. Like if once you lose in a week, you're done. That's it. You go home.
Yeah, sign me up for some more leagues here. That's for sure. I'm always down for another league for some reason. So probably not a good thing, but I love betting, especially on fantasy. So Steve, we appreciate you jumping on today. This was a lot of fun. And everyone out there who listened or will be listening at some point, we do appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. As always, go check out our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. We got all of our writers off-season articles producing up there. We got some rankings and everything will be up there as well. And again, we're going to have some cool things coming down the lines and a lot of fun guests coming up over the next 2 months here. So, and as always, please go follow us on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. You can follow me at Coach Stephen P.
Take on, Joe.
So give us a follow, guys. We do appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to us, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday. So take care and have a great one.